And I think we are live.
We are.
Let's go. Let me just double check with the platforms, making sure the streams are ready. Yes. Okay. This one is good. This one is good too. All right. This one is also good. Let me just check the LinkedIn. We'll give it a start in about a minute. So, for those who just joined the live, welcome, welcome. Say hello in the chat and let us know if you can hear us well. Let also, I'm losing my English. Let us know where you're from, where you're located, so we can have an idea of who we are attracting to this session. There we go. So, I'm gonna check this. All right. Bingo. Okay. YouTube and X is good. And LinkedIn is also good. Brilliant. Oh, this is going to be exciting.
It is.
All right, let's start. So, welcome everyone. I'm Riley Riles. I'm a startup advisor and investor. But today, it's not about me, it's about my guest. But I just want to highlight one thing. This new format is called the Startup Kitchen Show. And Rachel, you're my first guest, so I truly appreciate that. You're gonna be the alpha test of this
Love it.
segment, and you're the best person for this. And we'll dive into the why. But the reason why I created this format is for two reasons. Number one is because education is super important for me, and I think knowledge should be accessible to everyone. And there are so many people who could benefit from startup knowledge and business knowledge from people who have been in the trenches or came out of the trenches, whether they succeeded or they fell or they fell. And I really want to have this format for that, and also to highlight startups who are doing inspiring things and that need a little bit of push to get to the public. And the reason why I called it the kitchen show and not just show is because I guess it's my French background. We love food and we love talking about food and we love talking during food. And so every time I'm explaining a business concept, I use food metaphors. And I just thought, okay, let me just continue on this sort of trend and stay in this artistic direction of food and kitchen.
Fabulous.
Fabulous. Okay, so thank you so much for being the first to sort of play with the fire and get grilled on this episode. First, very simple question because a lot of my audience don't know who you are. So
Yes.
who's Rachel?
You got it. So I'm Rachel Petzold, and people call me the product storyteller. And as a product leader at companies like Nike, Starbucks, and Amazon, I was able to take things to market and make them better for users. My work has always been a blend of the stories and the content and the technology that brings them to life for people. So, my work now is on a platform called Laborious, and Laborious is meant to be a place for people to land softly when they lose their work. And I can't wait to tell you a little more.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Trust me, we'll do a good segment on that.
Great.
But before that, I really want to dive into your origin story and how you got to work with those big companies. You mentioned Nike, Starbucks, Amazon. You told me something about Jeff Bezos and the interactions that you had
Yep.
with him.
Yep.
Uh,
Working with leaders, it's always a part of the product story.
exactly. So how did you ended up working with these companies?
Yes. So the work that I did, because I grew up in the Pacific Northwest, I was very close to some of these companies. It's easier to get a job at an Amazon if you're living in Portland or Seattle. So
Mm.
I got my role at Amazon when I was living in Seattle. and I worked on the Amazon Canada team and with some people in spaces at Amazon, and had brushes with the leaders. But it really goes back to my time at Nike when I was asked by one of the senior leaders there to please take a stab at solving something for users. User solutions have always been kind of at my core. The people that build things and lob them over the fence are not my people. It's like cooking. I want to make sure all the ingredients are there so that somebody is going to have the most delicious meal of their life, but with the tools and technologies that we have at hand.
Ah, there you go. And you use the cooking metaphor. That's
Have to.
I knew you were the right person for this.
Thank
I knew
you.
it.
We love to
And
cook in my family. So I love
let
to
let
cook at work. I love to cook things up and make things better.
exactly. It's a universal language. And you
It is.
said you sorry for the way I'm going to phrase it, but you preach the gospel. You said building things for users.
Yes.
And I work mostly with startups now, and I think one of the biggest misconception they have is big companies don't do that.
Hmm.
And so I really want to tap into this on how and why is it that important to focus on building something for the people and knowing the people you're building those things for. Can you tell us a bit more about that?
Absolutely. So the first thing that comes to mind is my early days at Nike. I was a young product person, and I knew more about how to kind of command people to do stuff because I thought it was the right thing than I did about research with people. And so I discovered my research capabilities when I was asked to go out and take a shoe to some people and just watch them, put them on, see how they put them on, see how they engaged with it and interacted with it. And we were trying to do shoes that were laceless for people that had a harder ability of pulling a shoe on and then tying the shoelaces. And the discovery that I made was I filmed it with their permission. And afterwards, I listened to what they were saying as they went through things, or I watched where there were stumbles and struggles. And I realized that my opinion about what a shoe should be had nothing to do with what they needed. And that as a person who's going to build things, I need to know that I'm solving for a need or a want. And if I'm not going to sell them and nobody's going to use it.
Ooh, yeah, absolutely. How did you have to learn it the hard way?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I fell in love with the solutions so often. Like I wanted people to want something, or I wanted someone to need something so many times in the first 10 years of my product adventure. My aha moment was when I discovered somebody was trying to do the same to me, to say, I have a thing that you have to buy because you should want it. And I said, it doesn't add any value for me. Why do you think I'm going to give you my money? And then I listened to myself because founders fall in love with their baby and they don't always understand that their baby is not interesting to anybody else. And if you think, oh, this is the best thing ever, and you're not gathering data as you go along the path, as you're adding ingredients to the recipe, you can't come out the other side with something people are going to love and are going to want.
Absolutely. If you have a very particular taste, then you may be the only one person enjoying it this way. And and then you're essentially just building something. It's like that perfect shoe, but that only fits yourself.
Exactly.
Yeah, 100%. 100%. So from your experience, would you say that big companies make this mistake a lot, or is it just a startup thing of not falling in love with the users and falling in love with the product instead?
Yes. You can imagine some of these big companies become, because they're so big, they become harder to move. They become harder to shift. As a small business, as a startup, you can kind of go, well, we haven't invested a lot, throw that out, let's start over. But imagine $1 million investment from Bill Knight at Nike to go do something new. There has to be a 10x payoff to that $1 million that he takes out of his pocketbook and hands to somebody to go build an idea. The same thing happens at even smaller businesses these days. You hear AI is the God, AI is going to solve everything, but I want every single person to tell me what is the payoff for the consumer? Are we making it better when we do something? A perfect example is I love to cook and we cook in my family. I am allergic to shrimp. So don't ever put shrimp in anything. Do not put chips in a vat of oil that had shrimp in it right beforehand because it will make me sick. If you think about the fact that I am not the only person in the world that wants to eat at restaurants or that wants to eat somebody's recipe, I always have to preface it by saying, is there any shrimp that's been prepared here or that's been in this thing?
Hmm.
But there are more Rachels out there. So if you want to get Rachel, you need to understand what makes Rachel tick and what is going to cause her to say nope and walk away for good. As businesses that are huge and startups that are small, we always have to think about the fact that if you find one, you found a forest. If you find forests with different things in them, you can start to meld the persona of who you want to approach and then have that person that you can get information from.
Wow, I love that. You said something very interesting. You said if you found the one Rachel, then you can find the forest.
Mhm.
Spot on. How did you used to do that at Amazon, Nike, and Starbucks?
Yeah. I was really lucky at Amazon. I got to work with a lot of the third party sellers in Canada, working on the Canadian team. And these
Okay.
were people that wanted Amazon's attention because they wanted to be successful.
Hmm.
So I built a pod of sellers that would give me feedback on the interface, on what customers were saying, and what their challenges were. What wasn't very well known by the Canada team for these third party sellers, because 3P, Amazon 3P was just launching Amazon Prime in Canada. In Canada, it takes 3 days for the Postal Service or for DHL to deliver something from one place to another. If you have a 2 day guarantee as a seller and it takes 3 days because there's no way to get it there faster, do you think they're going to be successful launching Prime with the same commitment as in the US? So you have to understand the constraints of the people that you're working on behalf of.
Yeah.
And when you have those conversations with people, you can find them out just by meandering through a chat.
Yeah, absolutely. What is their shrimp allergy? Yeah.
Right. Exactly. What is the outlying thing that actually can be game changing for them or for you?
Yeah, absolutely. How frequent were you interacting with your users and stakeholders?
With that one, and almost with everything, it's probably weekly. And I'll do a survey. I'll send a questionnaire or I'll have an email that's automated. And I'll say, last week you measured this at this. How are you feeling about it today? I'll make a phone call. Some people want to talk on the phone because they want to be able to complain about something that's hard or tell you the specifics of something.
Mm.
And then my other favorite way to gather data is sitting at a Starbucks with a giant piece of white paper and a Sharpie. As people are wandering by in a busy Starbucks here in Frisco, Texas, they wander by and they're like, what are you writing? What are you drawing? What are you doing? Because I'm designing a user experience for something that any person in that audience might be interested in. With Laborious, it was if you lost your job, what would be the first thing you think about?
Mm.
Oh my God, I'm going to be broke. Every single person says financial devastation. So one of the reasons that Laborious became what it is, a community, is not any company can support as a startup a full staff to be there all the time, 24/7 to answer mental health questions or to point you to support. And what we realized is that everybody is going to hit that milestone of, oh my God, what just happened? How am I going to survive at different phases? So,
Mm-hmm.
because we want a community of people that are going to be together, there's always going to be another human online. They can say, well, did you know about all these resources that are here? Or, hey, I have a friend that lives in Texas. Can I connect you to them? The plan and the strategy for this came about because on a giant white piece of paper, I showed people that were very disconnected.
Mm.
When you lose your work, you lose your community.
Yeah. Yeah, it's more than just work.
It
Absolutely.
is.
Absolutely.
It is.
I want to pause the laborious conversation because I know people join later and later, and I want to make
Yeah.
sure everyone is here when we talk about it. And
Sounds good.
I see people tuning in slowly, so
Great.
I want to save it as the highlight.
You got it.
But you said something Super interesting. You said you were sitting in Starbucks with a Sharpie to run
Mhm.
some experiments.
Yep.
It's super funny because I created a practice that I call the Starbucks Guerrilla Research for
You and me.
and I'm sure we had the same idea. We just didn't know each other at the time. And
Yeah.
so I created this because I was talking to so many founders that they were telling me, yeah, but it's too hard to do some research and to talk to your users and blah blah blah. And one day I just thought, okay, you know what? Let's just go to a coffee shop. Let's just buy some vouchers. Ask people who are queuing for a coffee if they would be willing to test our sketch, slides, pitch, prototype, and blah 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 in exchange
Yep.
of that coffee being paid.
Yep.
And because they're waiting in line, they have time, or some of them are gonna drink the coffee at the place anyways.
Yes.
And so within just 1 to 2 hours, and I would say with about $100, you could get so much feedback and sometimes like a very good signal of market fit. Not a full validation, but a very
Right.
good signal. And it just really takes you going to a coffee shop and spending 1 2 hours and eventually $100.
Yep.
And it's so funny that you have pretty much the same experiment. Were you doing this while you were working at Starbucks, or is it something that you've developed for most of your businesses?
I developed it much earlier than when I worked at Starbucks. But what I found is once I was at Starbucks, I had the reserve downstairs from the Starbucks, what we call the SSC.
Okay.
The partner support organization is in a huge building in
Okay.
South Seattle. So
Mm.
the reserve downstairs is the fancy coffee. There's a bar. There's all these different pockets of people. And I would
Okay.
wander until I saw some people that were more casually enjoying things. And I
Okay.
would wander through something I was thinking about for the marketing technology team. Things that we wanted to be able to do to make the app and the experience better. And it's one of the places where the idea of I hate it when I get to the Starbucks and there's 30 coffee cups on the counter and none of them are mine. And if mine is
Mm.
there, it's cold. So thinking about how to sequence orders was something that we worked on. How to make it better for the people that were walking into a Starbucks when you could first order mobile online before COVID. And that was something that we worked on with the people downstairs. When would you want that coffee to be ready? Do you want time to wander and look at the cool stuff in the store? Or do you really want to like walk up to the front and then they have your coffee in hand and they hand it to you hot? So exploration about that. And just drawing things that kind of help them as breadcrumbs. Earlier discoveries were really more around other technology. I worked for Zoomies, the skate shop, and the Zoomie stores had some really great experiences that we're trying to roll out more globally. And to be able to just go and take something that was maybe a proof of concept in a store and share it at another store to see if there was excitement or frustration. And if it actually solved a problem for consumers was very good. And I sometimes would do that at Starbucks and just watch for the kids that were wearing the Vans.
Yeah. Yeah, you learn so much by spending time around your potential customers. And that's also why I truly believe that most of incubators are a bad thing, because it's a walled garden place that
Yes.
doesn't connect you with the people you're supposed to be working for and
Right.
falling in love with. And it's essentially what you mentioned at the beginning of this conversation. It's you essentially just throwing a product above a wall and hoping it that it's going to land somewhere.
See what happens. Yeah. How about getting data early to know that there are people interested in what you're thinking about?
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And how how would you typically do that? How would you advise startups to get data fast and easily?
Yeah. There are so many avenues you can get it. You can do it in person, which
Mm-hmm.
really, because then you can have a conversation. You
Mm-hmm.
can do it through tools like user testing and some of those other tools that are available and get access to somebody that's likely a target that would be a target customer for you. But
Mm.
you also can just go out on LinkedIn or on X or on any of the other platforms and say, hey, we have something we want to get some validation for. I'd love to send you a $10 Starbucks gift card or gift card of your choice if anybody wants to sign up. And then they'll make time for you. And you do a Zoom call.
Yeah, yeah, and it's it always amazes me the the proportion of positive response that you get from those requests. Too many founders think like people will just say no, I don't have time or these kind of
Right.
things, but there are actually a lot of people who are willing to give you their opinion, especially in today's world where people do it for free. When you look at
Yes.
some platforms like TikTok or Instagram, and people just turning on their phone and giving their time for free, and content for free and opinions for free. So if you're telling them that it's to help to build something that could be useful to them and eventually like get a little gift out of it, yeah, a lot of them will say yes. But of course it's a numbers game. You're probably going to get a couple of no's,
Yeah.
but you have to go pass through these things. Yeah.
You have to be a little brave too, because what if they all say your baby's ugly? What do you do then?
So how did you typically react discovering this in the big companies you've worked with?
I think one of the most insightful things was always that leadership didn't necessarily believe it when the team would say, "We believe this." But when I
Mm,
had some third party person that was not a member of the company that would come in and say, "Yes, I believe this," and I had a video I could show of them struggling or audio I could share of them talking about what was hard or what they liked about something. And then the designs for this is what they say they'd rather have leapt us ahead.
yeah, getting the proof from, I would say, a neutral person, like someone
Yes.
who doesn't really have stakes in the organization or something like that. Yeah, absolutely. I've seen that a lot of times. Also, to convince developers that a feature was not good,
Yeah,
like just putting it in front of users and having users says, "No, I don't like that. I'm not going to use it."
exactly.
Yeah, it works. It works super well. Absolutely, absolutely. Oh, I love that. I love that. There's 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 more commonality between those big organizations like Nike, Amazon, etc., and startups than we think.
Oh,
And
yes.
and how how would you sort of connect these two things? What are the really key lessons that you can take from those companies and then bring to your to smaller organization?
That you have to be brave. You know, if a CEO or a senior leader at a company hands me a check and says, you got to come back with 10x, that's a lot of pressure. You know, maybe I get fired if I don't do that. As a startup founder, you don't have $1 million. You probably don't have $1,000. You're working bootstraps. You're paying for all the tech yourself. You're doing all these things kind of on your own time. You have to still be brave. You have to say, this is what I'm willing to invest. And you have to draw a line. I see this happen so often with founders that end up homeless or couch surfing because they've invested every penny they have living on mom and dad's couch trying to get something out the door. You have to start like a business and say, what is my total investment? What's my all in? And at what point do I say, well, I can't do this anymore? You have to be willing to step away or find investors. Finding investors these days is really hard. So I recommend that you have a really solid line you draw so you do not overextend yourself and end up not able to work, not having any place to live.
Yeah. No, no, I fully agree. I'm a bootstrap advocate. I
Mhm,
always tell that to my clients. I say, hey guys, if you're not building rockets, don't chase investors.
mhm.
The technology and the tools have been so democratized now that you can do a lot without going out for investment. And sometimes investment money is is a sort of hidden poison
Mhm.
because number one, you're falling in love with the wrong person,
Yep.
right? You're trying to fall in love with the investors, so you want to know everything about them, etc. And then you lose the focus to the person you are building the solution for, the Rachels and the forest of Rachels
The
out there.
forest of Rachel's. Yes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
this is gonna be the running gag. And the other thing I've noticed is also a lot of founders confuse investors' money for product market fit, as if they receive the money from the investors and then they think, oh, okay, so it's gonna work. It's,
It is so often the opposite, isn't it?
yeah, have you ever experienced or read about investment that were completely misused and actually killed the startup and killed the unit in a big organization.
Yes. There was one startup I advised for a little while, and they
Yep.
had interest from investors, and we built a pitch deck that was a really solid pitch deck. But when
Mm.
the investors came in, they said, okay, yes, but we want you to change this about what you're trying to do. And because now you are beholden to them, they have a tendency to be able to pivot you off the path you should be on. So those investors need to only have certain kinds of control, and they need to have an understanding, because sometimes first time investors come in and they're like, oh, you're a startup, I'm going to make $1 million this year. They need to be clearly explained, this is the path to revenue. It might take 2 years, it might take 5 years. They have to have the right appetite for your trajectory. And if they don't, they're just going to crush you and you're never going to be able to get anything out the door.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. Um, no, it like I said, it's a kind of a double-edged sword, and so often founders don't know about this. They don't hear about this, so they have to be really careful. And again, I'm a bootstrap person, so I try to stay away from this.
Well,
But
and you don't
yes,
build giant things that take you 5 years to build either, do you?
yeah,
No.
yeah, true, true,
You
true.
got to think about what is the smallest thing? What is the MLP, the minimum lovable product that I could get out there for validation? If you're not building an MLP, if you're building a behemoth,
Yeah,
you're not going to be able to be successful unless you continue to take more investor money and they're going to redirect you toward their perspective every single time.
yeah, absolutely, absolutely. I'm checking the comments, and people are having a really good time. We're getting a lot of thank you. We're getting a lot of I love this. um, we're getting a lot of yeah, it's an amazing conversation. There we go. Um, people are happy to be here, um, and emphasize on how important it is to validate the problem and not the solution. Yeah, yeah,
Yes.
yeah. Feel free to drop us your questions in the chat. I'll pass them to Rachel. Um, absolutely. I can only agree to everything that you said. Um, and that makes me think, what is sorry, what are the main problems and mistakes founders are making when they're building their projects, from your experience and all the whispers that you've done? What did you get from that?
I think one of the main things that I see a lot of is people think that it has to be pixel perfect before you try to push it out there. Startups that I've worked on directly myself, it's like throw something out there to the wild and get people using it, and then continue to build it based on their feedback, the people that are actually excited about it and using it. And many times a founder will go, okay, it has to be X, Y, and Z. It has to be this big. I got to have it hosted on Amazon Web Services. What if you actually looked at it and said, what is the smallest possible thing I could have a human touch to get that first feedback? And then what does iteration look like? What can I have to them again the next week? If you bring people along in the build instead of waiting until you get to an imagined milestone of it has to be this before I can show it, you're going to end up building a product that people really want because you listen to their feedback and you incorporate it into what you're doing.
100%, 100%. And something I've also noticed, I think this year I did probably like 150 consultations. I've noticed that founders, especially the ones who come from a tech background, have a really, really hard time confronting themselves with the users. Like I even had people saying, I said, how did you how did you identify this problem? And they said, oh, I asked ChatGPT. I said, but how many real people you talk to? None. Like, why don't you
Yikes.
why don't you want to try? And I get very few answers from this question. So do you have experience about that?
I do. Um, a lot of the people that I work with and some of the startup founders that I've worked with are very technical. They understand how to build the better mousetrap. They just don't necessarily understand what the better mousetrap could be, like the small thing again. So when you have people that are used to working at massive tech companies, even Amazon, they have all this stuff at their disposal.
Mm-hmm.
And then they go out into the world and they feel like they have to build the kinds of stuff that Amazon built or the kinds of stuff that Starbucks built in the technology and the mobile app.
Mm-hmm.
You shouldn't do that because they had already done market validation with little incremental things. That's how those big companies build. But when you work at those big companies, you're only exposed to the, oh, look at the massive thing we have that we have to care for and feed.
Mm.
So people that are thinking about technology to solve it, I always tell them, what if you could build it on a piece of paper? What would you build? If you didn't have to have a technology tool, if you didn't have to have a CMS, if you didn't have to have a back end or an ecosystem, what would you build that you could show somebody on a piece of paper? Which is why I use paper when I go to Starbucks.
Brilliant. Yeah, brilliant. I love that. I love that. And I've also noticed it's like one thing I love to challenge founders with is I say, okay, you want to build an app, you want to build a SaaS, etc. Usually they focus on the solution and not the problem. And I try to get them to shift and think outside the box, outside the application box, and try to challenge them to build a service that does not include any tech,
Mhm.
to force them to have something they can deploy and test with the Rachels out there.
Yep.
And I noticed there's a lot of friction to get them to think
There
outside
is.
of the solution. Like, I want to build a car, I want to build a car, I want to build a car, but how would you use that car? Oh, it's to go from point A to point B. Okay, but you can probably find something or build something else to achieve that exact same action and get those results. Maybe 10% lower, 25% lower, but it would take you less energy and still solve that problem. I really love your concept of MLP,
Mhm.
minimum lovable product,
Yeah,
because then you focus on that. What is it that you can build that people would love to use? Um,
exactly.
yeah.
And there's a question over here that I think is very valid for this exact moment. If you think about solving problems, that's what a tactical product manager does. Okay, there's a problem statement. I have a problem statement. I need to do this. But when I do my work, the strategic work, I try to find something that's going to delight people that they never thought they wanted or needed in the first place. When you have something that you can expose to people where they're like, wow, that's shiny and new, then you can get validation of, would you be willing to pay for it? How
Mm-hmm.
would you want to interact with it? And
Mm-hmm.
all of that stuff I do on flat paper.
Yeah. Absolutely. No, no, I fully resonate on that. It's a mindset shift that needs to operate. And I'm curious, how do you sort of flip the script and convince founders or teams to go and operate this way?
Not always very successfully. It is a very hard lesson to learn that you're building something that may not have fit in the market, that may not make money. I don't know very many founders that start something to not make money. If they're starting something because they want to be a nonprofit or they want to help other people, there's potential that they're not worried about making enough money to be a millionaire, but they still have to pay for the infrastructure if it's a tech tool or for the experience if it's a website. There is a lot to be said for the lack of understanding that the thing that you think is what needs to happen out there is going to have to constantly be checked. I don't do product market fit once when I work on a product. I do it probably 100 times. I've made enough changes that I show it to people again. Are we
Mm.
going the right direction? Is this interesting? Does it delight you? Is there a problem it's going to solve that you'd be willing to pay for? Which is really where the problem statement and the solution has to come together. Most people don't pay a lot of money for something that just is shiny and makes them happy.
Hmm.
Some people do, but most people invest their money in something that solves a problem for them or that helps them do something more easily or better.
Yeah. No, no, that's very good. You mentioned again the product market fit. Um, that's a question I get a lot. I'm curious to see what's your opinion on that. How 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 do you explain or show to people that they have product market fit or they're heading to the right direction?
Yep.
And how are you doing this in the startup world, and how are the big companies you worked with used to play with that?
Well, I had so many customers at the big companies that I could always find out if people were interested in it and what they'd be willing to pay. I basically had a captive audience because
Okay.
the company already had an audience. When you're a startup founder, you don't necessarily know who you should be talking to. You talk to friends, you talk to family, you talk to strangers at Starbucks, but you're not necessarily meeting the person or the people who might have that, wow, I need that, I can't live without that. The categories of what you could be building are so massive. And we're limited by what we have right now, which is almost always technology, which is kind of the big limiter. If you want to build something and you want to sell it and you want to charge people something every month for it, so
Mhm.
your goals are revenue and increasing revenue and low CAC and all of the other data points that you have to have. If you don't know yet what your goal is, like how much money do you want to make, product market fit is impossible to figure out. If you don't care and you only want to make $1,000, you don't need to go build $25 million worth of tech. You need to do something that's 90% smaller than that for the cost of building it. So product market fit also has to be about what are your goals, founder? What are you trying to accomplish? What is your investment that you can make in time, in money, and maybe even in people that you can bring along? And how do you build something without needing 40 people before you have revenue? Because you have all these people that then you're asking to volunteer and get equity later. And
Mhm.
that's kind of unfair for people that are not working at the time. You need to make sure that they are able to eat and feed. To come back to it, the only way to find product market fit is to find out there's a certain percentage of people that are the people that you think are the right persona that say, I'd buy that for what you're talking about. You have
Yeah.
to triangulate.
Yeah. Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. It's not an algorithm. It's not a recipe. It's not something you can just follow and then you hit the point. Otherwise, someone who would have written a book and everyone would have applied it, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. We have a question here. That's kind of a long one, but I'm gonna display it. I've been hearing this buzz in the product community of moving away from problem first processes and moving more towards an outcome oriented mindset. I don't fully understand this yet, but I hear that a predefined problem can lead to bias solutions. What is your opinion on this approach? Let me just.
So
Oh,
similar to what I just talked about. And hey, Diane, thanks for letting me know. This particular set of headphones is always bad. So sorry if there's an echo. Hopefully, this is better. The the conversations out there about how to approach things differently have been going on forever. We'll pivot one way in product to, oh, we have to only build shiny things that nobody has ever seen before. And then we'll pivot in product, and I've been in product for 20 plus years. We'll pivot a different direction to, oh, it has to be a problem statement and it has to be small and it has to do X, Y, and Z. I think the beautiful thing about product is we come to a conclusion as product thinkers about what we think we should do. We get data, we get validation, and then we move forward. And these different approaches are less important for the strategic part of product. They may be important for how to operationalize what you're building, but when you're coming up with a net new idea, there is no one way to do that. You can do it a lot of different ways. And the way that gets you the feedback that helps you be successful is the most important one.
absolutely. Absolutely. I hope that helped you. I don't have your name. It only shows LinkedIn users, but hopefully that has helped you. Don't hesitate to just rebound on that answer. Um, One last topic I want to jump into is going to be a short one before we dive into the laborious. People are have been asking me about Jeff Bezos.
Oh, yes. Yeah.
So this is probably going to be the viral shorts
Uh,
in this segment, but tell us a little bit about that, your experience working with Jeff Bezos. What did you learn? What did you like?
yeah.
How was it?
So when you have somebody that is the founder that has very strong opinions about things, when you're sitting in a room with them, oftentimes you will see, the best of them, but you'll also see them get frustrated when everybody doesn't understand the same thing. So in
Mm,
that environment and in many others, when I would be sitting with the person that was either the founder or a very big innovative mind person, there could be contention. There was frustration because we weren't getting it. There were arguments because, I said so, so do things. And as a founder and a young founder, I think you want to always remember to have the empathy for the people in the room because we didn't always receive that from leaders at these big tech companies. There would be frustration because we didn't get it, but we wouldn't necessarily have been given the memo to get us up to speed. More broadly and along those lines, when you're working as a founder, we really need to have empathy for the people that are helping us and working with us. Startups that I have worked with have been very almost abusive of my time and demands of me when I worked for free or for equity. And so I want to be really clear that when you're founding, Jeff Bezos, all the way down to somebody that's just starting a startup and asking a friend to come help them with something, we have to make sure that we're treating people like people, and we need to not be angry and aggressive toward people, because being angry and aggressive is not the way that we can get people to come along. I mean, sure, you can get somebody to do something, but you're not getting them to buy into your vision. So the visionary founders that always make sure that people understand the vision are
Mm-hmm.
really successful in my mind.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. Absolutely. That's essential. Th-
Darcy, it's Darcy that was LinkedIn user. Hey, Darcy.
there you go.
She's a friend of ours, so we love it that Darcy's here.
Absolutely.
Yay.
Thanks.
Yeah.
We unveiled the mystery comment.
Yay.
So at Amazon, there is this principle in the culture pillar that is disagree and commit.
Yes, disagree and commit. Yeah.
Absolutely. What is your experience regarding this, and did you feel that it was a real thing that Jeff Bezos embodied in the organization, or was it a little bit of a marketing kind of a catchy phrase?
There are all these superpowers when you're at Amazon, and these are the leadership principles that we would follow. And those
Okay.
superpowers could be contradictory. So
Mm.
disagree and commit when the company was younger, from everything that I heard, was very much about I could say, hey, I'm Rachel in the corner and I'm fulfilling orders for books to go out, but I think there's a better way. And everybody else might go, well, that's not how we do it. And Rachel would be able to continue talking until the voice was heard. And then maybe they would go, okay, well, we'll try your way because you seem to have the data that says this might be better.
Mm.
The flip side of that is when you become a big corporation, you
Hmm.
end up with people that are strong opinions that don't want other people's voices to be heard. So it was an intention that didn't always come true, even in
Yeah.
my own personal experiences.
Yeah. When it start to get political, and
What
then
do what I say because I said so was something that I heard in meetings often, and that wasn't
oh
necessarily what that principle aligns with.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. No, no, not even surprised. Yeah,
not even. Yeah,
I had the same experience.
yeah.
Um, I want to close the Bezos arc with this last question.
Yes.
Is there anything you learned directly from Jeff Bezos uh, that sort of inspired you and that you took as a really powerful lesson to your next adventures?
Well, I think the thing I walked away from the whole Amazon experience and those leaders like Jeff that were so present is that you have to follow up with actions for the words you say. There were times in meetings where people were talking and things were said, and I would have to loop back and follow up and say, are you sure you meant this? Because that was our understanding. We, as the people receiving information from these great, brilliant founders, have to translate it for others sometimes because those leadership principles, you can't actually take action on all of those all the time if they're in contradiction. So the things they say they need to actually confirm they're going to back it up and stand by them.
Yeah, absolutely. That's the in my opinion, that's the true definition and the true difference between a leader and a manager.
Absolutely. I can go tell everybody to do what I say, but if I can inspire them to want to do it and to even make it better, then we all win.
Absolutely.
We do.
Absolutely. No, fantastic.
Thank you.
Fantastic. Um, Now I want to jump into the main event. Um,
I'm
and
excited.
yeah, because and I think we gathered enough people, so I really want to use their attention now to discuss that super inspiring project that you have. Um, Before sort of revealing what it is, I would like you to tell us how you came up with the idea. What problem have you noticed,
Yeah.
and what made you jump into it.
Absolutely. So I was looking at data a while ago that gave me an aha moment back to something that happened in 2007 to me and my family. And that data I was looking at is the data that's available from the Bureau of Labor Statistics that talks about job loss. And there's a number we hear in the news all the time. It's the unemployment rate. Everybody thinks that's the gold standard for the data that we need to understand. And as I was looking through this data, I got to kind of be taken back to 2007 when I had a huge life situation happen to me that was devastating for me and my
Mm,
family.
mm,
My husband had been not feeling great. He has history in his family of colon cancer. And so he went in for a colonoscopy, which is the test you do to see if you have any cancer. And he was diagnosed with a late stage of colon cancer and given a 2% chance of survival. He was in his early 50s, so very young. And the doctors didn't explain things super well to me, but he had to go have surgery, and then he was going to have chemotherapy and treatment
mm,
for 6 months, for a long time, every other
mm,
week. So I went back to the office after this appointment and let my boss know, I don't know that I'm going to be very successful at being at work today. This is what just happened. And she was kind to me and said, well, let us know what we can do. I went home. We figured out what the schedule was for all these appointments, and I requested the time off to be at surgery with him and at home until he was back on his feet, which they approved. But then I asked for every other Friday off. And I said, I need every other Friday off, or I need to work remotely because I need to be able to go pick him, take him to the hospital at 7:30 in the morning, be with him until 2 in the afternoon, and I can't leave him alone at home with our
mm.
preteens because somebody's going to have to be there to care for him. And he would come home with a chemotherapy pump where poisons were in this pump that he had to wear on his body. And I had a hazmat suit I was going to have to put on if ever it spilled. It was kind of terrifying. So I'm going through all of this and I asked, and the response was, it wouldn't be fair to everybody else if you get every other Friday off. And I said, well, I have vacation time and I'd like to use my vacation time. Well, no, we're not going to let you use your vacation time. Well, I can get family medical leave. And they said, well, you shouldn't use that. That's only if you take a big chunk of time off. So you can take a couple months off where he wouldn't have been making any money and I would have been making half of my salary. I said, can't do that. I want to be there, but I need that one day every 2 weeks to be gone. I got a pink slip. HR pulled me aside. Hey, we're going to have to let you go because I was being not a team player. Right? Right. So this is my origin story. I lost my job. I was fired right before the Great Recession when jobs were very hard to find.
Yeah,
And I was
2008.
able to take care of my husband. It was financially devastating for us. He would not have survived had it not been they had a new treatment, and he was one of the patients that was in the treatment program, but insurance wouldn't pay for it. So I had a almost $300,000 bill for hospitals that I had to come up with a payment plan that took a significant number of years to pay off. Like I paid that. I worked 3 jobs for a number of years just so that I could get that payment down to the point where we could get a loan and pay off the rest of it. You should not, as a human, be left behind because you're asking for something that somebody thinks is unreasonable. There should be protections for that. But back to the data. It is as bad, if not worse, than 2008 in the job situation that's going on right now. If you dig into the data with the Bureau of Labor and Statistics, there were
Yeah.
24.4 million jobs eliminated in 2024. 24.4
24.4
million
million.
roles gone forever. They're not coming back. They were cut. This is not, we laid off somebody and then we replaced them with somebody else. This is a role that disappeared. Most of those are for highly educated people. So you're looking at people that can't go on unemployment and get the $467 a week you get in Texas and survive with your family. There are so many gaps in employment now because people have lost one or many roles during the tech ups and downs. And then there are people that are not hiring, people that have the green ring or that have a gap in employment ever, even from COVID. And the COVID swell of hiring is what we're seeing kind of get peeled off. Companies that overhired because they had all this money or because they had a need for a bunch more people so that they could continue growing their revenue, it flatlined and then it started to drop. This year, we are on track. It's October. If the numbers continue at the rate they're going, permanent job loss where roles are eliminated will probably cross the 25 million. So that means in the last few years, 50 million roles in the United States, highly paying for highly educated people, have been eliminated. And there is not job growth anywhere that is replacing that. There is a huge challenge here because we have all these people that don't have a role they can go to. Nobody will hire me to go work at Safeway. If I need a job just so I can get groceries on the table, I'm not going to be able to get that. Anybody who's highly educated, those kind of entry level roles or the roles that used to be able to kind of fill in a gap, we're
Mm.
not getting hired. So Laborious came to mind when I realized there are groups on LinkedIn that get together and they celebrate each other and they're supporting each other, but they can't scale. I want to build a place where anybody who can't afford it can volunteer 4 hours to help other people around them and join the community. And those who can pay the $99 a year, it's very inexpensive. It pays for the platform for the group. Those people that can come in and do that, if they don't have the time to volunteer or they're looking for something different, they can participate. But we don't want to turn anybody away. We have people that have made sponsorships to help cover the cost of people who couldn't afford to come in. But the thing that happens when you lose your job, all the way back to that time, I had something important I needed to do. I needed to take my husband to the hospital every other week, and I needed to be there for my preteen kids to make sure that they were okay. And I needed to make sure that we could just keep the lights on in the household for that very long 18 months that we had to go through this. And then when I came out the other side of that, I realized there's a lot of people don't have a safety net. And today, I hear from more and more people who had a safety net, like me, and where they went through it because sooner or later, your rent just sucks the last money out of your savings account or your 401k. So we have a massive number of highly educated people that don't have anything to do with themselves all day. And they're on LinkedIn and they're feeling scared and they're not finding the information they need to understand what they might be able to do to us. Maybe it's consulting. All these roles that get eliminated, more often than not, they're like, well, we probably should bring somebody in for a year as a project manager to consult for us. So, repurposing yourself is something we're going to teach people how to do, how to start a business in any state, how to go out and find a contract, how to take what you can do and make it into something that somebody wants to hire a consultant for.
Yeah.
One of
No,
many.
no, 100%. And there's, I mean, first of all, what a story. I would say what a story.
Thank you.
But it now it's very clear to me of why this is your why. It
It
makes
is.
total sense.
Yeah.
Um, Very inspiring. And I also noticed something, which is people who have lost their jobs are isolated, especially in
Yes.
the last like 5 years with the rise of social media, where there is we've lost that third place
Hmm.
where people can could just hang out and be with other people, and they
Exactly.
often feel that they're alone in this kind of position when, to use a metaphor used previously, they're actually part of the forest.
Yes.
And the simple fact of connecting them so they can actually see, oh no, we are 25 million people like that.
Yes.
So it's not just us. I remember when I spent my first 5 years after graduating from university, building startups, and I was just constantly failing and failing because I was missing stuff. But at some point, I had like life caught me back, and I had to just get a job. And I remember the first month were super hard because I had this voice in my head that said, "Man, you just wasted those 5 years. Your skill set is completely useless to the modern market. You missed the train, right?" And I'm pretty sure that a lot of people feel this way is because, like, if you got off the work bandwagon for even 3 to 6 months, you start to think that, oh, maybe I don't catch up to the market anymore. And when you look at some job applications, they're nonsense. I
Right.
had a conversation with a lady recently. She was denied a job of, what was it? She was a head of product design, and she was declined the position because they told her she didn't have any coding skills. And I had that 15-minute conversation with her telling her, no, it's not about you. It's just those people are bozos and
Yes.
they needed a reason to disqualify you. And so
Yeah.
they just looked at the thing that you obviously not supposed to be doing so that they could just say, okay, no, let me just write you off.
Yeah.
But imagine you just chain those rejections. And so rejection after rejection after rejection, you naturally start to think, okay, something must be wrong with me,
With
right?
me. Yeah. People say that to me all the time. And yet, one 30-minute conversation with somebody recently basically had them coming out the other side going, "Oh, I have so many things I could be doing." That's what we need to offer people is not by you can't do this because we say you can't do this. And if I were to go apply for a product management job right now, nobody would hire me because they would look at me and say, "You're used to making $400,000 a year. Why would I think you're going to stick around for 110K?" And there's not necessarily a disconnect between that. So I went looking for product work in a unique space, finding companies that are not technology companies and helping them productize themselves. Because service companies need product work like nobody's business. They don't think of themselves as a product. They don't talk about themselves as a product. So I found a new work stream that will have work for the next 20 years for me. And any product person that I meet, I explain the same thing. And I say, go find a company that you think is cool and talk to them about how you might be able to help them get where they want to go faster.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yes.
Absolutely. Um, there's there's this quote from I think it was a noble Frenchman. He said, everything has already been told, but because nobody listens, we have to repeat.
That's a good one.
And so I want you to repeat me what Laborious is and what it's doing,
Yes.
but I'm gonna challenge you here a little bit if you can elevator pitch me
Yes.
so
Absolutely.
that new joiners can get the point.
Absolutely. So Laborious is a place where when you've lost your community by losing your work, you can find and build it again and never have to go to the kind of work you used to do.
I want to drop my mic, but I'll
Thanks for
make
the
it.
visual of a mic drop. I like that.
Mic
Because
drop.
isn't that what we would all want if you've lost your job, you've lost money, you're not feeling secure? You need a place where you can come in and find people that are going to be like, no, it is going to be okay because I already have been there. Or here are some ways that you can think about it differently. We got to have a mindset shift. And if you get that mindset shift and you still don't know how to go out and do that, there are some people that can teach you how to do the things. We have courses and training we're building. The first one, how to build your portfolio because a resume doesn't do anything for anybody anymore. You need to talk about the things that you solved or the things that you did that lit you up and how you helped the business in doing them.
Yeah, especially in the LLM's world with AI,
Especially,
a
yeah.
CV doesn't mean anything
No,
anymore.
it's gonna end up getting stuck at the it's think about a fish ladder at a dam. The fish can't go until they can go. You're never gonna get past the ladder because the LLMs have blocked you. Even if
Yeah,
you are like the best at what you've ever done, that process, unless you can hand a human your resume and talk to them about it, you're not going to be able to get jobs.
yeah, absolutely, absolutely. Um, I want to get back to the origin story of Laborious, and
Yes.
I want you to share a little bit of how the dish has been built and open the oven for us a little bit. So
Yes.
when did you factually created this initiative?
So it has probably only been 6 months since I came up with the name. And we worked a little bit on so, what is this thing? You got to define what you think it is and then test it with the market. I would talk to people that have lost work. Would talk to clients that were worried about losing their jobs because they didn't feel confident that their company wasn't going to lay them off or something. And I've
Okay.
just talked to a lot of the people that are out of work. And out of that information came the fact that there are three things these people want, all of them, every single
Okay.
one. Number
Okay.
one, community, a place to get back to it. Number two, a way to figure out how to make money moving forward, even if I can't get a job in my space. And number three, a place where I can make a difference for somebody else. Maybe I don't have money right now, but maybe I have an hour and I can help counsel somebody that doesn't even know how to start applying for benefits in New York State which
Yeah.
was the trigger for me. A friend of mine in my networks, I heard about this woman on LinkedIn. She had put a picture up that was a picture of her with her daughters. And she basically said, "We were about to become homeless. I don't know how to go on. I just don't know how to go on." And I'm like, "You sound so not safe right now." So I sent her a private message and I said, "What can I do?" And she's like, "I don't know. I'm overwhelmed. I don't know how to get help." Well, she's in a state where you can call 211 or 411 in most states and get somebody on the phone and be like, "I need help with my utilities. I need help with housing. I need help with other things." But so many people don't know that's available to them. It's
Yeah.
worse in the states that are red states because you don't have SNAP food programs here. You have to be more scrappy with how you go get food from churches and from other places.
Mm.
So connecting people to the things very quickly. And then these people that just want to have value, they're adding to somebody else today. So tomorrow, maybe they feel a little tiny bit better about themselves than they did today. They are going to be available to offer that support and to say to somebody, "I am here to get on the phone with you so we can call them. I know
Yeah.
what you're going through. I'm going to help them understand what you need, and we're going to get you started. So you're not alone."
Yeah. 100%. And I think there's something people misunderstand a lot because it seems like obvious actions, but when you are under high stress or even mild stress,
Yes,
your brain doesn't perform the same way.
exactly.
I remember I so quick anecdote. A friend of mine had to travel between Canada and the US because he was attending an event, and at some point he lands in Atlanta, massive hub, and he calls me and he said, "Man, they lost my luggage, and I have to get to the next city, but there's like some of my work in that luggage. I don't know what to do, and I've never been to Atlanta hub, blah blah blah." And like for me, in half a second, I said, "Did you? Why don't you check your what's the name? Your air tag?"
Hmm.
Silence, and then he started laughing. I was like, "Why are you laughing?" He said, "I would have never thought of that."
Right.
And then he checks he pulls up his phone, looks at his air tag. He said, "Oh, my luggage is there." Okay, he got the luggage and he said, "Man, you saved me because I would have never thought of checking my air tag."
Yes.
And imagine this is benign. This is a benign situation. So
Right.
imagine what it is for people who have lost a job, lost a relative or something like that. The level of stress is huge. Just try to go shopping on an empty stomach to see the kind of nonsense stuff that you would buy. It's
Right.
so powerful, so powerful. Yeah, yeah,
It
absolutely.
is. So the people that want to help other people are the people that really belong in the community. And our advisors and a lot of the people that have volunteered to help us get to where we are, I have some great volunteers on the team. They have all come to a point where it's like, okay, now we have the doors open. Now it has to kind of feed itself. We need people to come in and to want to help each other, or people to come in and say, "I can't help myself yet, but I want to when I can," so that we have that kind of circle of life that goes around. You're in a better place now, stay and help the next person. Like whoever's behind you, you
Yeah,
need to give them a lift so that they can get on further.
yeah. And so you said you started about 6 months ago.
Yep.
What is the state of the project right now in terms of um the I don't know if it's a product or a service. What did you call that?
It is a product. I think it's a community product. So if
Okay.
you've ever been on Slack, Slack is a community. We
Okay.
have a community product called Heartbeat that we have built Laborious on because we want it to be very simple for the people that are volunteering to build out
Okay.
the features. It's not a complicated tool. And then the Heartbeat community is at community.laborio, Laborio.us. And at that community, this week, we're going to be able to open the doors and let people sign up. You can come in for free if you can't afford the $99 a year. You can pay monthly. But what we want is to be able to pay for the platform, to have the community be self sustaining from the very beginning. And it just broke even. For the few people that we've had that have come in already, we have sponsorships, we have people volunteering. And so we'll have 50 people that will be in the community when we open the doors fully in the next few days. Once
Okay.
those doors are open fully, then the more people that come in, the better the balance is. Think about that cyclical wheel. We have to have everything in balance. So there need to be enough people that can help. We
Yeah.
need to have people that need help. And then we
Yeah.
also need companies and organizations and even small businesses that just say, "I want to help these folks. How can I
Yeah.
help?" We want people to volunteer to build content on how to do something. And this isn't like those things that you do on LinkedIn where you can go get a certificate. It's like life skill stuff. How to build a portfolio should be something that everybody in the world knows in the next year. Because if you don't know, then you're never going to be able to show somebody your work in the right level.
Yeah, absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely. And just to make sure the audience understands it, it's one of the, I believe, one of the hardest business model to put in place, because it's a little bit of that Uber situation. You need
Yep.
enough drivers, but you also need enough people to be driven for
Yes.
the system to work.
Exactly.
If there's an imbalance in one side or the other, it just crashes, right? And that's
Yes.
extremely hard to build. And you've been able to sort of build and balance it within the past 6 months, right?
Yes. Exactly.
Okay, cool. I wanna get back to a notion that you mentioned earlier, that concept of MLP.
Yes.
What is or what was the MLP of Laborious?
The MLP of Laborious was, can I find one human that needs help? And can I
Okay,
find one human that can give help? And can I
okay,
connect them somehow?
okay.
And the perfect
MLP.
example was that there was somebody else on LinkedIn, and she said, I'm sitting in the dark and I'm really depressed and I'm not sure how I'm going to go on. And so I reached out to her and I said, who are you? What's going on? And she's actually somebody who will be in the community. And her comment was, my lights got turned off. And she was in another place where she could get somebody to help her with her utilities, but
Mhm.
she didn't know. So I was the giver, she was the receiver. And I validated she was interested in being here and wanted to be able to help the next person behind her because I was able to help her. I helped her get her utility information and I sent her a $25 Starbucks gift card because she's sitting in the dark and she's like very depressed. And I said, what do you think would like lighten your spirits a little bit? And she's like, oh, I just wish I could Uber a coffee. I'm like, done. How easy is that? I have the $25. And so, if every single person that wants to be a Rachel in that situation or that feels they've ever been the other person in that situation came in, we would have the circle going forever.
Absolutely. You I wouldn't say you under promised, but you definitely over deliver. So I
Thank
hope
you.
Jeff Bezos is gonna watch this segment.
Because you keep saying his name. Maybe you will.
You think he's like Beetlejuice or something like that?
I don't know. Maybe. Don't say it again.
Yeah. So for the people who are asking, MLP stand for minimum lovable product as opposed to minimum viable or valuable product.
Yes.
Lovable has that notion of emotional connection. So people can love something that doesn't necessarily have to be like valuable. Valuable is super subjective as a notion, and doesn't have like that strength of engagement. Um, yeah, I love that. I love that. I want to touch into another aspect that you mentioned at the beginning of this session, is that
Yes.
how you get to that traction, and how did you find the first users, how did you find the first Rachels, and how are you now trying to sort of get into that forest so that
Yes.
founders can learn from that?
Absolutely. So there's this thing called the green ring that's on LinkedIn. And anytime you see a person that has the green ring on saying they're open to work, they're talking about how hard it is out there. So I went to where the population was of these people. And I would ask them questions, or I would give them something, or I would try to get them engaged. We built in the form of bootstrap it and do what you can. We wanted to launch the platform sooner, but finding a platform tool and getting it set up was taking longer than I wanted. So we launched about 6 weeks ago a group on LinkedIn that now has, I think, 250 people in it. And they're just coming in because they saw somebody else post about it, or some of the things that we're saying is, being distributed and people are talking about it.
Mm-hmm.
The group there then becomes a feeder group for the bigger platform. But we already have 50 people who've signed up for the bigger platform. And when we open the doors, they'll be there. And maybe those 250 people coming along as well. Suddenly, we have product market fit. We have people that can't afford to pay and can't even volunteer right now. We just want them to come in and get a little TLC and some love because they're worried and they're nervous. Then we have people that maybe can't afford the $99 but want to volunteer, want to add information to our database so that people can go find things, maybe create a course on something fun they want to do. We want people to have a place where they can go engage with something and then engage with each other about the something, because that is what you lose when you lose work. You lose the ability to bounce ideas off somebody else, to have somebody celebrate what you've done. And so that spirit of community is meant to be something that can continue it forever. And the funding, we're talking about $99 a year for forever if you're one of the first 500 people to sign up. But at some point, we hope that we don't even have to pay anything at all to have people come in the door, because we'll have partners that are validated and vetted, that do some of the work that people that are out of work need, like helping with the resume, but for a reasonable amount of money. Please don't rip people off that are out of work. There's so many scams on LinkedIn. So we want it to be a place where you can pick somebody that's not going to take advantage of you to get the thing done that you need so that you can go off and find your next job.
Yeah, and tell me if I'm wrong, but it's really kind of a pay it forward kind of
Yes,
approach.
exactly. Yeah,
So you come, you get that help, and it's okay if you cannot contribute right now,
right.
but contribute later, helping someone else, and just pass the baton to the next person, right?
Exactly. Exactly.
I love that. I love that. So, how many people are behind this project? Because I know you're kind of a Shiva with your nine arms, dealing with
Oh,
everything,
it's
but
not me. It's not me. So I have a really great group of people. I have
okay.
Atienne, I have Sabrina, I have Ella. So Ella is in France, and she was one of the inspirations for this whole idea. She is a community builder, and so she
Is she
said a
French?
community. What's that?
Is she French?
She's not French,
Okay.
but she's living in France. And then Owen, who is a gentleman that built something similar to this in a smaller way, that was about men and mental health when they've lost their jobs, and how men are abused online. If they talk about being desperate, there's a lot of abuse and bad stuff going on out there. So they were a bit of the inspiration for pieces that could be here. Then we just have a lot of people that are leaning in to be moderators. There is Kaylee, who is an awesome PR marketing person, and they're all just donating a bit of time to help us get some pieces together, because we need to market it. It's a product that has to get to market, so it has to get some attention, and I can't do it all. So I know the places where I don't have the time, and I'm going to be talking about it, because that's where I think I make the biggest impact, is making sure it's heard about across as many avenues as we can make it.
Absolutely. So shout out to the entire team. We'll make sure they get this segment of the video.
Thank you.
Love it. Love it. One more time, because I want to make sure people get it. What is Laborious? Who is it for? And um, how can people jump into it,
Yep.
either as a contributor or as a receiver?
Yeah, I'm going to start with how you can help, because I think that's what a lot of people are going to be asking. You can help by connecting with me, and we have volunteers that we need. We can get you access to the platform. We have help because we have data we're trying to gather, so people have what they need. It is for everyone who has ever lost work and knows what it feels like, who is worried about losing work right now, hearing about a layoff, you don't love your job anymore, and about people who are out of work, who are work seekers that need to find work so they can pay for things for their family. They are the core users of the community that need it the most. But if you have a heart and a soul and you want to help people like that, you can join too. You can volunteer just by saying, I want to be a volunteer. And then as you see somebody needing help, you just offer them help. We don't track your time. It's not a big deal. We just want everybody to know that if you're listening and you can lift somebody up, that you can change the world by being in
Okay.
Laborious.
Brilliant. So I'm curious, how is it structured? Is it structured around a nonprofit or a business?
That's a great question. So right now we are a for-profit, because it takes a while to become a nonprofit. We will
Okay.
be a for-profit B corporation, where all of the profit that we have is going to be reinvested in the community
Mm.
directly to help people buy services or whatever else. And we are building a nonprofit arm that Owen is going to be starting. That nonprofit arm is going to be for the people who live in states or countries where there are no social services to help them. We're going to have a medical fund where people can tap into financial, help with medical things, and then find the local closest, least expensive way to go to a doctor, because we can find that even in Texas here, where I live. And then the nonprofit's also going to help with people with job searching things. If you need a resume rewrite and you can't afford it, we can fund that for you, so that you get a resume that's going to get you through the ATS, if that's even possible, or somebody to help you write your portfolio story, to tell your own story. There just is never going to be an end to this, because it's big right now. All these numbers, 24.4 million, 25 million. But even as that tapers off, there are always going to be people who've lost their jobs, who've been laid off, people who've been maybe not treated well at work and have emotional damage from that. That was me more than once, where I left a job, not because I wanted to, but I just felt like a complete loser at the other side. We're not losers when we lose work. We are people who now have to find the right thing to do. And so Laborious is supposed to do all of those things. And the nonprofit will be feeding Laborious folks, but also other organizations. When we find out about organizations that are helping homeless people find housing and find jobs, we will be helping donate funds to that by fundraising with people that really care. A lot of private donors really want to be able to do good in the world and don't necessarily need to have their name shouted from the rooftop. They're the people that we're going to approach so that these people who deserve help to make the world a better place are going to get it.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I love everything that I'm hearing right now. Um, and I want to finish with two small questions.
Yes.
One, what is your situation right now? Are you full time on this project?
No, this has been a side hustle for the 6 months. I have been working as a consultant for different
Okay.
companies. I actually just started a full time consulting role for a while. And so I'm doing that on top of the Laborious. So the team is important. But I also am building this the way I always tell other founders to build it. What is the smallest thing we can do today to get closer to the end goal of getting it live?
Yes.
Yeah.
I was hoping you'd give me an answer like that because that's one of the thing that one of the mistakes I see a lot is a lot of founders just go all in
Yeah.
into their projects and then end up in very sensitive situations, and they don't
Yes.
have to do that. And so the
Right.
fact that you were able to build this on the side while maintaining other activities is a proof of viability. So that's really great.
Thanks.
I want to finish with a little bit of inspiration where you could give a couple of recipes, if not ingredients, to help founders who are watching now and later with their startup and their business. What would be the three really good ingredients or recipes to maximize their chances of finding the right problems, finding the right Rachels, the right users,
Mhm.
and eventually maximizing their chances of getting a product market fit or making a business that is sustainable?
Yeah. In all three of those things, do the smallest thing you can to get some information. So, the idea of what it is, put it out in front of people that you think would like it. And if they say they don't like it, find out why. Don't just go, oh, nobody likes it, I shouldn't build this. It could be one word you used suddenly set them off the wrong direction. You have to have it be a story that you're working on with them, and you need to take that feedback in and go, okay, but then what do you think would work? If you don't like that, what do you think would work? You have to have conversations with people. You can't just ask them, do you like it? You're not going to get the right kind of feedback. How to find the trees. The way you find the trees is you think about who might be benefiting for what you're trying to do. For me, it started with work seekers, people that are desperate and out of work and maybe don't have their rent covered this month. That was who started this. And then the me from all those years ago. But it built into people that are job curious. They're working right now, they have a good job, they're making lots of money, they're sick of it. They're sick of the corporation, or they're sick of the small company, or they're sick of the politics. They someday will be able to come in here and find benefit and give benefit the same as everybody else. And the final piece, how do you get it to market? Like, how do you take this thing and make it go live? Don't stop at, okay, I got to have all these things. Stop at, what is the smallest thing I could do? We decided to buy a $40 a month platform and to go use Brevo, which is an email service program that is very rudimentary, and Rachel's bootstrapping newsletters on Monday nights. That's what I do. We are doing it this way because it's like I pay very little there, I pay very little here. I have the commitment to my family for what I'm taking out to work on Laborious every week, every month. And that's as far as we're going to go. I'm going to do it as small as possible until it becomes a snowball rolling down a hill. And then I'm just going to guide it because I will be the visionary person that came up with it, the idea maker, and the team is going to execute. So that's the way you got to do it.
Beautiful ingredients and recipes. I love
Thanks.
that. I love that. So to conclude, first of all, I want to say thank you to Darcy for connecting us.
Go, Darcy.
Go, Darcy. Yeah. And thank you for taking the time to share your experience, knowledge, and all that inspiring story of your life and the product and the reason why you built all of that. Um, I want to give you the final word, but before that, can you remind everyone how they can reach out to you for business inquiries or for Laborious?
Absolutely. My email for my business is easy. It's Rachel at gossamer, like a butterfly, .global. And that's where my consulting work is. Laborious is available if you go look for me, Rachel Petzold, on LinkedIn. You'll be able to find Laborious. And we have a Laborious page on LinkedIn, but we also have access to that Laborious community. It is free. It's a place where you can come in and see the other 240 people that are waiting in the wings to join the bigger community. Or you can go to community.laborious, but it's community.laborious like the United States, at the end past the dot. It is not a .com. So community.laborious is where you can come and see more about what we're doing. And that's where you'll be able to come and join.
Final word, whatever you want to say.
I just want to say thank you to everybody that believes in the people that are out of work and knows that they have value to add again. There is never going to be a time where they're not in the world. And that's why this is going to be something that someday I'd love to say we don't need it anymore, but I find it unlikely based on how corporate America works.
Boom. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Great to talk to you, my friend.
I had a great time. That was the very first episode of the Startup Kitchen Show. I hope you enjoyed it. If you loved it, share it with your friends. If you hated it, share it with your enemies. If you want to be part of the show, send me a little message and I'll see if I can set it up. Have a great day, everyone. Thank you so much, Rachel, for being part of this. And Laborious.
Laborious. Take care, everybody.